welcome to the Sports Break here on RVNTV.tv. I'm your host, Renee Washington, and sitting to my left is co-host Jonathan Stroud. I'm not by myself today. Now, last show we did get into some pretty heavy stuff, and we got into some controversial discussions, but today we're going to talk all NBA, starting with Kobe Bryant.
Kobe Bean.
Yes. Now, he has retired, and we all saw his great 60-point finale, and as of recent, he has decided that he's going to have his jersey raised up in December when they play the Golden State Warriors. Mm-hmm. Now, the discussion was, which jersey will he retire? He was number 8, he was number 24, and Kobe has decided to retire both. Now, Jonathan, what do you think about him retiring 2 numbers?
I think that feeds directly into Kobe's ego, and for the Lakers. I mean, I don't think if this was any other city, they'd probably be retiring 2 numbers, but since it is Kobe, pretty much arguably the number 1 Laker of all time, that, they're going to do whatever Kobe wants and bless him with 2 numbers. I'm like, are they going to go side by side, or are they going to have 2 separate numbers? I'm just kind of interested in how they're going to work that out as far as the banner is concerned. But
yeah, it's definitely a first, and of course, if anyone is to do it, it would be Kobe.
Right.
But the other thing is, for him being in the league since '96, drafted to the Hornets, but then traded to the Lakers, playing his entire career with the Lakers, which in this day and age is unheard of.
Right.
And the fact that if he only retired 1 number, who would wear his other number? Like, you can't step up. If he retires 8, nobody can step up and wear 24. And that's the other issue. I mean, can you have someone else that would ever be number 24, number 8?
That's Kobe. He's like, listen, nobody's going to wear 8, nobody's going to wear 24. I'm sure if he had it his way, he'd have 2 more numbers that retired along with the 824. So, I mean, I don't know, man. It's the whole Kobe mystique and just, feeding into that, I'm not the biggest Kobe fan, as you can see, but I still think he's going to go down probably is the number 2 Laker of all time. Shaq probably would have something to say about that because I think Magic's number 1. But I mean, I think it's, like I said, just feeding into that Kobe machine of having 2 numbers. So
right, yeah. I'm a Kobe fan. I think he was a great player. Yeah. Obviously, you can't argue that.
I respect his name, absolutely.
And his personality and everything. He's just not my type of favorite player, I guess you could say.
Right.
Yes. But I like his confidence. You have to be confident to be a top player.
Right.
And I do agree, him, Magic, Shaq, the list goes on, the top players to come through the Lakers program. Now, there is another player that was knocking on the door of retirement and has decided that he doesn't want to retire anymore. And that is Mr. Stephon Marbury, 40 years old, has been playing in China for the last 7 years, almost 8 years.
Right.
And he had 13 years in the NBA where he was with the Nets, he was with the Knicks, then he was a bench player, and then that's when he went to go play in the Chinese Basketball Association. And he has said that he's making a comeback to the league.
When I first heard this, I'm like, oh, he's going to be joining the Big 3. He's coming out of retirement. He's going to call up Ice Cube. But no, this guy's trying to go right back to the NBA.
Yes.
I mean, I haven't seen Stephon Marbury since he was on YouTube eating Vaseline. So, I don't know what type of game or what shape he's in. I think he's just doing this to create some headlines. I mean, This is the same brother that came out with the $3 shoes and sneakers back in the day. Right. So, hey, all power. God bless him. If he thinks he can still do it, go ahead. I think he can, still go out there and try out for a squad. I don't think he'll be making one, but, I think he's more, better suited for the Big 3 at this point in his career. So.
Yeah, and he tweeted out, quote, "My next move is the best move, working on the comeback to the hashtag NBA." Tweeted that out on Tuesday.
Yeah, I love his confidence. He feels he can still do it.
Yeah, so. And I don't think with the way the Knicks are, and definitely with the way the Nets are, that they would take him on their team. No. So if he was to come back, what team do you think he would even bench for? I won't say play for. Bench for.
Brooklyn and the Knicks, and as bad as these teams are, unless they're trying to put some more fannies in the seats, I don't think trolling Stephon out there is going to do anything for your squad. Except for get the players some towels, some Gatorade, or whatever it may be. But I don't think he has anything left. I haven't seen him personally play over there overseas. Yeah. So maybe I'm putting the cart before the horse, but I don't think he's going to make any squad. I mean, it'd be fun to see and, go out there, and I wish we could, all see his tryout video with the team and see what he has left. But, hey, God bless him if he thinks he can still do it.
Yeah, now do you think that something about the excitement of the league right now, we're going to talk about this later in the show, how there's so much buzz in the NBA right now, even in the offseason, which is usually the downtime. Do you think that is what leads a player like Stephon Marbury and maybe some other players that have stepped away from the NBA but are still playing, and maybe they don't want to go to the Big 3 because they don't want to be considered done, but they want to play in the league again?
I think any player who has excelled and reached the NBA and reached the ultimate pinnacle of playing in the NBA, you're always going to have that itch and think you can still do it. It's like with any great player, any athlete on any level or spectrum, you think you can still do it. I mean, look at Iverson, Lord have mercy, who I think he can still do it. And we all see his 5 minutes in the Big Three and what happened out there. So, I mean, listen, Father Time is undefeated, as they say. And I think Stephon's going to find that out the hard way when he steps out there with these young guys out there who are more athletic and faster. And it's just, he has been in the NBA since what, 2008? We're up to almost 10 years? Come on now. Come on.
And he hasn't played. The last couple years he was in the NBA, he wasn't even playing.
Right.
I mean, I do know, and this is from a personal perspective, you always got to bring it back to yourself. When I'm covering a soccer game or something, or watching a soccer practice or coaching, I still feel like I can play. And I do jump in and play sometimes until my knee blows up swollen or I twist an ankle or something. So I do think it's hard to step away because you see how you used to be. Right. And maybe for him, he's watching the players that are in the league now thinking, I did that. I could do that. I could still do that.
Right. I could cross him over. I still have my moves. But, hey, Steph, Big Three. That's where you need to go, Steph. Big Three, brother. Don't even try it.
So maybe that next move, that's his best move, needs to be to the hashtag Big Three.
Yeah.
So it's funny that you mention older players that think they can still play with younger players because there are still some older players in the league. And when we get back from this break, we're going to talk about how the ESPN rankings just came out, and some of those older players are ranked a little bit lower than some of those younger players. Mm-hmm. So don't go too far. We'll be right back with some ESPN NBA rankings. And we're back on the Sports Break. I'm your host, Renee Washington, here with Jonathan Stroud. And we were just talking about Kobe's retirement, Stephon Marbury, who needs to retire, but has decided he's going to come back to the NBA possibly. And we cannot go without talking about the latest ESPN rankings. So ESPN every year puts out these rankings, and they make a nice long couple weeks of it, where they go through 20 players at a time, 25 players at a time, so we still don't even know the top 30.
Right.
But we do know that in the ESPN rankings that have come out, there are some players that have dropped, and some rookies that have not even played a single game yet that are on the list.
Right.
So for you, up first, is it fair to have, and I don't even want to use the word fair, because what's fair, but do you agree with having players that have only played in the summer league, college, overseas, haven't played a game in the NBA on that ranking with players that have been in the league for years?
So now we're basically rewarding summer league MVPs and just throwing them in the threshold of top 50 NBA players when they haven't even stepped on the court and played any NBA game. It's ridiculous. I mean, I think they're just kind of doing this to get some headlines going and get folks talking before the season starts. I mean, we're 12 days out of training camp, so the fact that any rookies on there is kind of disrespectful, I think, to players that are already playing in the league.
Yeah.
The fact that Lonzo Ball is ahead of Carmelo Anthony, I mean, come on now. I mean, if Lonzo wasn't on the Lakers, would he even, be in the top 100? But I don't. I think that no rookie who hasn't played in the NBA should be in the top 100 NBA players. Bottom line, I mean, because you haven't been out there, out there with these grown men and the speed of the game and everything like that. So I think that's just nonsense, and they're just kind of doing it now to get folks talking about it. So
yeah. And CJ McCollum of the Trailblazers has said we should rank the journalists. But we have these journalists.
I like that idea. Yeah, exactly.
I like that. Why not? Rank the top journalists. Mm-hmm. We have these journalists that sit and watch games, analyze games, come together to figure out who's going to be the best. And a lot of it, based on what you're saying, is you think it's a lot of predictions. Because, again, we don't know.
No. And then you got these journalists who, some of them never even played basketball. They're out here just analyzing folks. Some don't even like the players they cover, so it's an agenda that way. So I like CJ McCollum's idea. Let's go out here and rank these journalists and, put them out there. But I mean, in all honesty, you can't have rookies who haven't played in the NBA and actually, the full speed of the game and just rank them top 100. You can rank the rookies who are coming in and say these are the rookies that, you can rank them that way. But no, you can't mix these dudes in with the NBA players. And I'm not the biggest Carmelo fan, and you guys got me up here defending Carmelo. So, I mean, that's
huge.
That's huge in itself. And so, I mean, with 64, that's a little, come on now.
Yeah.
I think Carmelo's still a top 50 NBA player.
Yeah. Now that is a huge slap in the face. And I think you make a good point because at the college level, when you have preseason rankings, they're not putting freshmen in. They're making preseason teams for conferences. They have their watch list, and it's returning players. And maybe they will have a rookie, guest, but you don't know how players are going to turn out. So having the rookies mixed in with these veterans, guys that have been there, how are you basing that? What is the basis of that judgment? Like, how are you choosing where players rank?
And I think the in game they've got the result because they got folks talking about it. So,
exactly. Here
we
are.
They did what they're supposed to do. So I think next week when they come out and they probably say LBJ is maybe top 5 and not number 1, and get folks talking again. But I don't think they're that crazy not to do that and put LeBron number 1. So. Although, I don't know, some folks think that Stephon is better than LeBron out there. So
yeah, we have. I mean, obviously, if you guys haven't heard, the top 10 rankings don't come out until tomorrow. So today they're supposed to release 11 to 30, I believe the number is.
Right.
They're really dragging this out.
Oh,
so we don't know who the top players are. And there are even discussions like Kevin Durant or LeBron James trying to figure out which player should be which at number 1. So who is your top 5? We'll go.
Top 5? Well, see.
Top 10.
It's hard for me because I used to be the biggest Kevin Durant fan.
Okay.
And he made the weakest move in professional sports history, I think, by joining up with the great force of the Warriors. Yeah. So I still respect his talent. I recognize he's a top 5 NBA player. And I'm not the biggest LeBron fan either.
Okay.
Let me qualify that. But you still got to give it to LeBron as far as the number 1 player. I'm going to put KD right there behind him. I'm going to have Steph on there as number 3. 4 or 5, you can probably shuffle in James Harden, and then 5, that's a toss up, man. You can go a lot of ways with that, but I don't know. I don't know where I go with 5.
Yeah.
Who do you think?
See, the part that I struggle with is a guard versus a big man is a whole different position.
Yeah, it's a whole different.
So
argument.
It's hard to even compare position to position. I know. Everyone loves to compare the greatest, so we'll compare a Shaq to a Kobe, but they were 2 completely different players.
Right.
So for me, I think LeBron is the number 1 because he's the best all-around player. Like, if you're talking a player that can bring the ball up, make passes, get to the basket, shoot from the perimeter, get rebounds, get defensive stops, that's LeBron.
Right.
After that, I think Kevin Durant, especially as much as I hated to see my Cavs lose, yes, my Cavs
Your
lose.
Cavs. You say that because you're a LeBron fan, or you just?
Because I'm a LeBron fan. So wherever LeBron goes, I go. It's not a bandwagon.
So you were a fan of the decision and all that.
I was. So Kevin Durant, I would put it number 2 because I think he also has that next best overall player.
Right.
Like if I want the best team player, I pick him. But if I want the best shooter, maybe I go Steph Curry.
Right.
So that's number 3, 4, 5. Steph, Russell Westbrook, James Harden.
Russell, and you can't forget the claw. I mean, everybody because he's a silent assassin.
And even we overlooked him, but he's someone that honestly, this past year, you see how the Spurs were without Kawhi Leonard. As soon as he went down, they were nothing.
Right.
So you can't argue that he's not a top 5 pick because of how much he impacts that team.
No, some say he's the best 2-way player in the league.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's hard to argue.
Stephen A. said that.
Yeah.
There have been a lot of people that have said that. So you do mention Kevin Durant and Steph Curry and the Warriors. This offseason, there has been a lot going on. I mean, the face of the league is completely different. I don't even know who's on what team anymore except LeBron and Steph and Kevin Durant. But other than that, there have been so many top all-star players that have been moved to other teams or traded or in free agency, decide to go to another team. Out of those teams, I mean, the Thunder, the Rockets, the Cavs, Celtics, even the Timberwolves, who are quietly rebuilding with a nice young group there. Who do you think is a team that really has prepared themselves to possibly beat the Golden State Warriors?
Well, I mean, like you said, this offseason was crazy. It was filled with, it was like that great movie. It just has a little bit of everything, suspense, and then when you think it's over, it has a surprise ending when Uncle Drew, a.k.a. Kyrie's like, I don't want to play with the best player anymore. You're like, wow, we got more drama going on here. So, I mean, everybody's trying to position themselves to beat the big bad wolf, which is the Golden State Warriors.
Yes.
And sad to say, nobody's still done it. I think they're still on track to repeat again. As much as it pains me to say that because of the KD move, but I think if anybody kind of made the strongest push, it's probably Oklahoma City. Getting Paul George, top 10 NBA player, to run with Russell Westbrook. Russell's proven that it's, he's not the easiest guy to play with, but I mean, I think that's an interesting dynamic to see what they're going to do. Houston getting Chris Paul, I don't know how that's going to work with him, being a ball dominant guy along with James Harden. So I still, like I said, the Warriors are still that team to beat. The Celtics, I mean, Gordon Hayward, and having to move with Kyrie now.
Right.
I think it's going to take some time to get that chemistry going. And then you got Cleveland, and you never know what they're going to do to try to keep this. They're already talking about dangling that first round pick out there to try to get Boogie Cousins in there. Yeah. So I mean, if that happens, I mean that could be interesting if they did that. But still, it's the Warriors and everybody else when it comes down to it.
Yeah, I think the hard thing is, even with all the changes that have happened with rosters this past offseason, is that to be able to beat the Warriors, they are like 8 players strong.
Oh my God.
Like their subs are coming in. Honestly, their subs would be starters on other teams.
Right.
Let's be honest. And that's part of the problem is you have to have the depth. You have to be able to match up with Steph, Kevin Durant, Draymond Green, Clay, let's not forget about him. And then you have players that are coming off the bench that can do and impact the game just as much. So that's something that the Cavs ran into. Mm-hmm. Because if LeBron's playing and getting his points and you don't have anybody else supporting him, and Kyrie in the past, or Kevin Love, or whoever is not stepping up, it's not enough.
Right.
And bringing in Isaiah Thomas for the Cavs and bringing in Gordon Hayward and Kyrie for the Celtics still might not be enough to put together that complete package.
A limping Isaiah Thomas. They talking about this brother might not even be ready until February. So your boy LBJ, he's probably gonna be in line to get the MVP this year because it's gonna be all on his shoulders. Because like I said, I don't think he's coming back till probably, from what they're saying, it's more than a torn labrum.
Yeah, now I do think with the Cavs, because of the way that they tend to prepare for each season, they're more of a postseason focused team.
Right.
So they don't really care about where they end up in the regular season. They don't even care about where they're seated.
Because they're in the East. If they were in the West, this probably would be a problem.
Exactly. So being in the East, they know, I have to be ready for the Celtics.
Right.
Maybe the Wizards will, be a team that I'm matched up with. But they don't really have to focus as much on getting that number 1 seed. So for Isaiah Thomas, this actually might be one of the better franchises for him to be with, to have time to recover and not have to have that. I mean, if he's with the Celtics, he has to get back. With the Cavs, they don't need him right away. They can go, up through February, and even if he's playing limited time in March and preparing for the postseason.
Mm-hmm. And LeBron's going to have his banana boat BFF, Dwayne Wade, come on the squad soon anyway, after that buyout happens with Chicago. So, I mean, he's going to have some, he's going to have some help coming in from him.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right. They can kind of coast until probably about Christmas, so when the season really starts.
Exactly. So. Now, before we finish up the show, which team, take aside who you think is going to win or how you think teams are going to finish, which team are you the most excited to watch?
Trust the process. Are you kidding me? The Philadelphia 76ers. I mean, I haven't been this excited for a Sixers season probably since 2001. When they you were around 2001.
Oh yeah, I remember. I'm not gonna tell you what grade I was in, but I remember going to school in my Iverson jersey, being disappointed when they lost in the finals.
Since the golden era of AI, when he was buying out the Fridays on City Line app, I think we're gonna have an exciting season here in Philly.
Yeah.
Everybody is believing into the hype. I'm believing into it. I mean, they've been birthing this tanking baby for a long time now, and hopefully, Lord. Just if we can keep Joel on the court, Lord, I think everything is going to be okay. They're going to be that surprise team. I think, and if they do stay healthy, I think they could be fighting for a top 5 seed in the East. So I'm looking forward to it. 12 days away from training camp. As my man Bart Scott would say, can't wait. That's the team I'm looking forward to.
Well, I will say, and I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it. For my birthday this past weekend, I was out. I actually saw Joel Embiid and Markelle Fultz. They were out. And Joel Embiid looks healthy.
Oh, yeah. You see him around the city, he definitely looks healthy.
He looks really healthy out, but, he's moving well. Yeah,
but I don't know if he's still being cleared for 5-on-5. I don't know if that's happening.
Yeah. But. So, I do think that for Philadelphia and fans, and I know my dad's all excited. He bought season tickets and everything. I know people are finally excited because they have something to watch. And if you're in an area with a big franchise, even like the Lakers, Golden State Warriors, the Cavs, these bigger name franchises, you're kind of used to this.
Right.
Whereas as a Sixers fan or a Philly fan in general, no.
Most folks
you don't know what to expect.
They're more excited about the Sixers season than they are the Eagles season.
Exactly.
So that just shows you what's going on around town and the hype. So trust the process. We're ready.
I agree. So I am looking forward to the NBA
Now,
season.
wait, question. Are you going to root for when it's Cleveland, Philly? Now, how are we going to get down?
I actually went to that game last year when they played in Philly, obviously. And I was rooting for the Cavs. But I always enjoy watching the Sixers do well. I enjoy watching the Sixers do well because they are my local team, and I want them to do well. I want to be able to go to games. I mean, part of the selfish reason is when I go to a game, I want it to be a good game.
Home team
So-
over fandom, Renee.
We'll talk about that in another show. No, but that being said, we are all out of time for today's show on the Sports Break. Be sure to tune in Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays. We have guests coming in every Tuesday and Friday. Jonathan will be here every Thursday to break down the NBA and all the excitement around that.
Yes.
I'm your host, Renee Washington. Thanks for joining us, and I hope you have a great day.